Okay, so you want to modify a guitar to just have one pickup, but you don't want to cover it with a sticker or a tenor cover? This video's got you covered. First, let's start off with what you will need. I've modified a few guitars in different ways, from using a block of wood to just using a 2-part liquid resin epoxy. Here's what I recommend. JB Weld Quickwood is a 2-part epoxy stick. This is by far the easiest way to fill a pickup cavity. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of sticks to fill a neck pickup cavity. They are relatively cheap, around $7 a pop. Staying on the part of epoxy, a 2-part liquid epoxy resin also does the trick, but it's a little trickier to use to get good results. I will explain this more in the video. Next up is something like Bondo or body filler. This won't be used to fill in the pickup cavity primarily, but it's used to help the finishing process, where you'll use a small amount to fill in any imperfections. And lastly, glaze putty, which is used in finishing the Bondo or body filler. This helps to fill in small pinholes that may have occurred during the Bondo process, as well as very small dents or shallow dips and holes. I want to make this the first thing that we go over. I do not personally like using a solid block of wood to fill in pickup cavities. That being said, people with CNC machines can probably make a nice form-fitting block of wood which could be glued in place. You slap it in and call it a day, but you do you. Okay, so let's jump into this right now. Obviously, disassemble the guitar and prepare the JB Weld Quickwood. You can probably use any 2-part epoxy stick like this. This is essentially going to fill in the routed holes in the body, such as the hole the factory drills to allow the pickup wire to pass through. This will be crucial to ensuring that your liquid resin epoxy doesn't flow out of the rest of the body, essentially acting as a barrier. I also use the JB Weld Quickwood epoxy sticks to fill in or plug any volume or tone holes as well as input jacks that either need to be fixed or filled. Again, any 2-part epoxy stick will work. So even if you snag a 2-part metal epoxy stick from Harbor Freight, let's say, that will work too. I have used it before. From my own experience, I will tell you this. Give the epoxy stick a few days to cure properly, and the more of it you add or layer on top of itself, the longer it will take to fully cure. And when I built my Mark Hoppus style base, I ended up using 2 full epoxy sticks of the JB Weld Quickwood. I allowed the first stick to cure for about 3 or 4 days. I then went back in with some 120 grit sandpaper to ensure a good bonding surface on the cured epoxy, and laid more in the jazz pickup cavity. Now, this is entirely up to you. If you're filling in, let's say, like a neck pickup cavity, like I did for my Tom DeLonge Starcaster build, you can use some liquid resin epoxy. That being said, here's some tips from my own experience. You'll need to use something like silicone to secure the neck pickup cavity, basically laying a bead of silicone around the neck pickup cavity and allowing it to cure before pouring in your liquid resin epoxy. This will help ensure you don't have a lot of epoxy spilling out of the pickup cavity all over the guitar body, basically containing it to the pickup cavity. Allow the silicone to cure and pour in your liquid resin epoxy mixture. You will want to use something like a blowtorch to get the oxygen or bubbles out of the resin epoxy. It may not be necessary entirely, but it helps to ensure that you don't get air pockets trapped in the resin, potentially causing issues further down the road once the liquid resin epoxy has fully cured and shrunk into the neck pickup cavity. Once it's cured, you can go ahead and move on to refining the pickup cavity and sanding it flat with the body. Now, I just want to throw this in here really quick. So, if you plan on using just the 2-part JB Weld Quickwood epoxy sticks, for something like a neck pickup cavity, you may need around 4 or 5 of those 2-part epoxy sticks to fully fill in a neck pickup cavity. The jazz pickup cavity on my Mark Hoppus base used 2 full sticks, so take that into consideration. Once you've gotten flattened out as much as possible, I would recommend using some Bondo or body filler. This will just help to ensure that there are no unseen issues. And yes, I have had issues after painting where I may not have noticed the divots or holes prior to painting. The body filler works to fill all that in and give you much more of a seamless looking finish. Glaze putty helps to refine that even further, and a thin coat will go a long way. Just be sure not to sand it all off, or you'll have to start over. One last thing I would like to mention. Use something like guide coat before you move on to primer and paint. Why use guide coat, you ask? This will just help to ensure that all of your work looks good before priming and painting it. This will tell you where any low spots or high spots in the finishing work are, which would suck to do all this work and then have to strip the finish off and start over again. Ask me how I know. Once you're happy with everything, you can then go ahead and use your favorite primer and paint it up. Also, something I would like to mention before closing this out, you can use primer as a guide coat if needed to, or a Sharpie will work in a pinch. Just be sure that you give the epoxy time to cure properly. I would recommend for the epoxy sticks, give it about 2 to 3 days. For the liquid resin epoxy, I would recommend probably 4 to 5 days. From there, you can then go ahead and sand everything flat. Well, that's it. Now you know how to successfully mod your 2 pickup guitar into a single pickup. If you guys found this video helpful or useful, give it a thumbs up and give it a like. If you didn't like this video, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. I'm Jordan, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.